All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the 10th and final episode of this season of AnimeSub. I am, of course, your host, Tyler, and today we're here to talk about two anime that I like a lot because I wanted to end the season on a high note. So, yeah, I don't know that there's any anime news for me to talk about. Nothing really interesting has happened in terms of what's going on with me. I did, against my better judgment, start watching Hell's Paradise Season 2. And it is, if you like the last season, you'll probably feel the same way about this season, honestly. It's if you liked it, good for you. You'll probably enjoy Season 2. I, as I've stated multiple times on this podcast, was not a huge fan of the first season of Hell's Paradise, and now I'm finding myself just kind of falling into the same problems. The narrative's a bit better here in Season 2. I think it's a bit more engaging, but it has all the same problems that it had last season, so that's where I'm at with Hell's Paradise. I'm also watching Pride of Orange, which is not going to get an episode on this show, but I'll just tell you, it's fine. It's like an idol show, but it's about hockey, so if that sounds like something that you want to put, I'm just kind of putting it on as like my, I'm doing other things, but I want to watch a show at the same time. Like, Pride of Orange has been really good for that. I'll put it on. It's got some sweet moments, yada yada, but it's nothing that special, nothing to write home about, or nothing to do an entire episode of AnimeSub about. So, there's that. That said, however, we do have to get into today's shows, starting with Super Crooks, they're super crooky. Rick James was a real problematic person, actually. So it makes it a little bit less fun. I don't mind him being a drug addict. That's fine. That doesn't really bother me. It's the kidnapping and sexual assault that I really have a problem with. So, and honestly, MC Hammer used that instrumental better, if I'm being honest. But also, he's got his own set of problems going on. What I'm saying here is that all of your faves are problematic, but none more problematic than the characters in today's show. Super Crooks. I checked this out. This was another Star recommendation. Star wanted to watch the show with me after they had finished it. I kind of came home to them pretty much finishing up this show, and then they told me that it's pretty good, and they liked it. They liked the start of it a bit more, and I can kind of agree with that notion. This show does kind of like trail off at some point to where the narrative doesn't feel as it definitely has an amazing pilot episode. The pilot episode of this show is, what The Boys wants to be, frankly. And this show is 1,000 times better than The Boys in multiple ways, but we won't get into that right now. Comparison is the thief of joy and all that kind of shit. What I will say about this show is that as much as the narrative does start to fall off towards the later part of the season, it does have a good cohesive flow. I never felt like I was confused where we were or what was happening. And I found the story very easy to follow, which is nice. There's a lot of good comedy here. I think his name is Transmit or something similar to that effect. He kind of has this he has this power where he can like teleport people with him. But his main thing is just going, yeah. So he's like one of my favorite characters easily. I think he's awesome. There's a really cool English dub here, featuring the guy that voices Legoshi in the role of Johnny in this. And Johnny's a fun character. I like Johnny. He's kind of like Tony Soprano for me in regards to like how you see him doing piece of shit things throughout the show, and you're like, oh man, you're such a piece of shit. But also, he's kind of charming. I love characters like that. I'm a big BoJack Horseman fan, so it's very easy for me to latch on to pieces of shit in television. But if I'm being quite honest, I think Casey should have left Johnny a long fucking time ago. And I'm kind of surprised that a woman like Casey, and Casey's my other favorite character in the show. I love Casey. She's awesome. I think she has the best power in the show. I wish we got to see her use her power more, frankly, but she's awesome. And she should have left Johnny a long, long time ago. So, yeah, without getting too much into this show's been out for a couple of years, frankly, but I'm still going to try to kind of avoid spoilers here for those of you who haven't seen it. I think you're going to find a really fun balance of solid heart in this show, balanced with some pretty tense action sequence and some really well animated action sequences too. The fights in this show they do not skimp on that. There are some aspects where they kind of skimp on the animation. You'll find shots where someone will be saying something to someone and we're just staring at a shot of the back of their head for like a minute or two, and you'll go, oh, okay, well, obviously they didn't want to expend any more animation to show me this person talking, basically, or to show the person that they're talking to his reaction, because I'm telling you, it's just a straight shot of the back of the person's head. So that can be a problem here and there, but also I just really love the character designs in this show. I think they're all really unique. I think they all look great. The show has a really cool aesthetic going on, too, where it doesn't really look like this isn't anime, but it doesn't look like an anime, you know? It feels more like, it looks very, very comic booky, which I think is what the show's kind of going for. It does have this kind of comic book essence to the design of the characters and to kind of the way that the world's built out in front of us, so... I believe that it plays around with the concept of superheroes and supervillains in the real world in a way that's much more meaningful. We actually have them having their kind of position in society. There's organizations built around them, and it's treated much more like occupational to some degree. So I find that very interesting. I think that this show manages to play around with that in a fun concept. My only real complaint with this show is that I actually wish, and I've recently I learned through my research for this that apparently the source material for the show is actually shorter than the show. So they were really kind of had to cook up a couple of different scenarios to fill out the first part of the season, because I think it's mostly the final few episodes of the show are where the source material kind of starts and ends, basically. So I think that they managed to flesh out the world in a way that was interesting, but honestly, I just wanted more of this show. As much as I am a 12-episode Andy, I love my 12-episode animes, I actually think Super Crooks had the potential to go on and do even more. If not in this season, I would have liked to have seen another season, but, I Googled and looked into it and got my hopes immediately crushed by the way that people were talking about this show. So a season 2 is not on the horizon, unfortunately, despite the fact that I think that this show really deserves it, and I think the show would really benefit from another season. But, if there's not source material there, and I don't imagine Netflix is calling the writer back to get on this, it's just a shame. I also would have preferred if we gotten more of Max, or the Bastard, being an antagonist in this show. The show does have a pretty definite ending that kind of ties up. You're not really left like wondering what happened with everyone. So they managed to tie the show up in a really nice way without like leaving things too open-ended to where you're like, well, what happened with so-and-so? They kind of go through all the main characters and let you kind of know what happened with people after the end of the show. So they really tie things up pretty neatly, which is another reason why there's probably not a season 2 to this show, is because it does have a pretty definite ending. And I give the show credit for not having... I think that this is a very easy show for you to write a downer ending into. I think this is a very easy show for you to give this kind of melancholic, sad ending. But they don't do that here. I think that the ending's really hopeful. I appreciate the optimism of it, especially in the day and age that we're living in, so... I really enjoyed Super Crooks. Do I recommend it? Do I recommend Super Crooks? Obviously, yes. I have had very little bad to say about this show, frankly. It's not the greatest thing I've ever seen. I wouldn't rank it as, like, top 5 or anything, but this is definitely a show worth watching. It's enjoyable, it's fun, and it knows what it is. It knows what it is, and it plays around within the limitations of its own satire, and it's just fun. It's fun, and it introduces some cool concepts, some cool superpowers. I do appreciate the powers in this show. I thought that they were really fun and really well utilized. And I even like the playing around of expectations. There's a certain character in the show who is feigned to have superpowers, but then you find out it's just a guy. Just a really technologically advanced guy. So I love that. I love that. I also want to give big shouts out to my homie Josh in this show. Josh rocks. Also one of my other favorite characters. I like Josh a lot. Josh rocks. Casey rocks. Johnny, despite being the piece of shit that he is, and he does kind of piss me off throughout the show, and I do still stand by the point that Casey should have left that motherfucker. He's still awesome. He's still fun. I like his power. I like his backstory, too. I think Johnny has one of the best backstories I've seen in one of these superhero shonen kind of anime in a while, frankly. I really like his backstory. I think there's a certain degree of tragedy to it. Those of you who have seen it know what I'm talking about. There's a certain degree of tragedy to Johnny that I find really endearing. And it makes him a lot easier to root for, because you're like, oh, this is a guy that wanted to do the right thing and wanted to be a superhero, but it was just circumstance and the way that things worked out. It's just going to be easier for him to be a villain, And I like that we're following a villain for the show. I think that's really fun. I think that's interesting. So, yeah, Super Crooks was good. I loved it. You should check it out. Give it a look-see. One more thing before I move on to my next show. The music at points. I like the music in certain parts of the show, and then other parts of the show, I get really put off by the music. I think it's unique. I'll give it that. It's certainly unique music, but I also feel like it alters the mood in a way that maybe it doesn't intentionally do. So that's what I have to say about that. Super Crooks was pretty awesome. Definitely worth checking out. Give it a look-see if you get the chance. I really enjoyed it. I think you'll enjoy it too. Let me know what you think of it. We're going to move into our next show here. No sponsored segment this week. We'll see if we have a new one when the next season starts. Who knows? We never know what's going to happen on this show. Anyways, moving into the next show, we've got Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions, which is a romance, comedy, rom-com. I don't know why animes don't utilize the term rom-com very often, but this is a romantic comedy from 2012 that explores, I guess, kind of culture that I wasn't even frankly aware existed, but there's an entire Wikipedia page dedicated to the term Chunibyo. You can look it up. So this is a very real thing that I guess people stop experiencing at some point. Not me. I'm having a great time still living in my Chunibyo, frankly. So, but the basic gist of this show, for those of you who haven't seen it, and those of you who have seen it, I'm going to try to explain it, and I might do so a little poorly. Our protagonist, Yuta, has moved on to high school, and he's looking to leave behind his former cringe self. However, he ends up meeting a girl who is also very cringe. She embraces the cringe. She even kind of relishes in it. And I'm really happy that this show didn't decide to have Rika's delusions sort of turn out to be real, right? Like, I was afraid that this anime was going to pull the twist like halfway through the season of like, oh my god, all of the shit that Rika was actually talking about was totally happening. Holy fuck, that's crazy. I'm really glad we didn't walk that road. And I actually think that this anime is going to take you on a ride that you're not expecting it to. First things first, we got to talk about the animation. This show, incredible animation. Great animation. There's pseudo fight scenes in this show where we kind of enter Rika and Deko's mind, and we kind of get to see what's playing out in their head. And those scenes are honestly, it has better fight animation than some shonen shows I've watched, honestly. Some shows that are like based around fighting, I feel like this show does the fight animations even better than those shows ever do, frankly. Really, really incredible. Great kind of misdirection, kind of plays with your expectations. I will get into spoilers soon. I'm not going to do that immediately. Do I recommend Chunibyo? Yes. I'm going to call it Chew 2, by the way, because I saw that people shorten the title of that. So I'm going to call it Chew 2 throughout this. Do I recommend Chew 2? Yes. I think it's fantastic. It's very fun. It's very funny. It's very, very, the comedic element works really well. This is actually a really funny show. But also, it gets kind of dark in some ways. It's it resonated with me emotionally. I think that it has a kind of beautiful depiction revolving around a topic that I'm not going to say here because I don't want to spoil things for you. That said, I'm about to get into spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers to happen, run away now because I'm about to start spoiling stuff. Okay? Are they gone? I think they're gone. All right. All of you who have seen the show, let's talk about how this show manages to frame grief in a way that I think is really relatable to a lot of people, frankly. especially with Rika's grief kind of kicking in when she's so young, right? To lose your father, I can't speak to that, thankfully. But I will say, not to make this podcast a total downer, but I did lose my dog this year. Chloe passed, or not this year, actually last year technically. My dog Chloe passed away in December. That was a really tough time for me. Luckily, I have a wonderful partner who supported me through the whole thing. And I've got a wonderful family that also supported me through losing my dog. We had Chloe for 13 years. And when she passed away, I was devastated, obviously. I was totally broken up by it. I continue to live life, I continue to do things. I did not fall into Chunibyo like Rika does here, but I do understand where she's coming from with indulging in these delusions to get around her grief. And I think that the show actually manages to use her delusion, or rather Yuta ends up using her delusions to help confront her grief in a really beautiful way. So I was really, really impressed with this show. I did not expect it to kind of take the turns that it did. I will say Yuta really pissed me off towards the end of the show whenever he, sort of put down Rika's delusions and told her, like, grow the fuck up, basically. I didn't enjoy that. And the episode where she's, like, pretending to feign happiness while not indulging in her delusions, it made me feel bad, which is probably the intention of the show, so it does its job well, but I still hated that motherfucker for, like, an episode and a half, right? We do eventually come back around. Yuta gets it and engages in Chunibyo to help Rika finally make her way through her grief. So I just think this show is beautiful. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a good romance. I like the characters in this. I'm not going to remember everyone's name. I remember all the main characters. I also remember Dekomori. There's also the cheerleader character. And again, I talk about misdirection in this show. I thought that the cheerleader character was going to end up being Yuta's kind of romance, not Rika. I thought that she was more there for a kind of comedic effect kind of thing. Until, obviously, the romance started happening, and we found out Rika's entire backstory. But I like the cheerleader, because I think that she's a good misdirection. She's kind of there as like a red herring. You think Yuta's going to go for that character because she's the popular cheerleader who used to engage in Chunibyo, so on and so forth. But it doesn't walk that route. And we actually get a really beautiful romance between Yuta and Rika, and I love that. I love the characters here. I love Dekomori as well. Once she finally showed up, I know my buddy Matt also recommended this show to me. My buddy Matt and Tim, who I have a podcast with at the movies with Ty Tim. Yeah, you thought that there wasn't a sponsored segment. There actually is. There is a sponsored segment. Take that. On a recent episode of At the Movies with Ty Tim and Matt, they recommended that I watch Chunibyo. They thought that I would really like it. And Matt in particular thought that I was going to enjoy Dekomori as a character. He didn't say her name at the time, but now that I've watched the show, I can confirm Dekomori's awesome. I think that she's a blast. I love the way that she uses her pigtails in the battles. I think that that's a really fun character archetype, and I wish that there was a real anime or like a real action anime where the character kind of uses pigtails like that. Let me know if that's out there. Let me know if there is an anime out there and I'm just missing out on it. Maybe Dekomori's a reference and I don't even know it. So that said, though, obviously I recommend Chunibyo. I actually think that this one does kind of rise up the ranks, and I think would be one of my favorite animes, actually. I really enjoyed this. I only watched the first season, mind you. I wish we had gotten more time to bask in Yuta and Rika's romance, but apparently there's a season 2 that I have not checked out. There's also a movie, or OVA, that I have not seen either. So maybe I'll check those out, and maybe those will give me the continuation of the romance that I'm asking for. Or, who knows, maybe it'll retroactively ruin the entire thing. Who's to say? I don't know. I haven't checked it out yet. But I think you should check out the first season of Chunibyo. It's super enjoyable. I found it really engaging. With these kind of shows, especially with romances, I find myself worried that we're just going to play the usual will they, won't they for the entire time. And I know that's the appeal of romance anime for some people. Some people really enjoy that kind of thing. I don't enjoy that. I want us to get to the point. I just want people who love each other to love each other and fucking get a move on. You know, what's with this fucking preamble? What's going on here? So this show, I really honestly didn't even realize it was romance until the romance started happening. I did not enter this show with the expectation that it was romance. I thought that the relationship, the friendship really between Yuta and Rika was kind of endearing. But then once they started becoming romantic with each other, I was like, oh, this is this kind of anime. I had no idea. I didn't know this was a romance. I don't read the tags before I watch things. What do I look like? You think I want to spoil that for me? No, I want an anime to surprise me. I look at the poster photo and the title, and then I just fucking go. That's how I choose my shows. I don't read genre. I don't know what I'm getting into at any given time, and that honestly makes it more fun for me. So, yeah, Chunibyo was great. I love this anime. Do I recommend it? Absolutely. Check it out. It's peak. If I was ever gonna, I know people throw that word around like it means fucking nothing. When I'm scrolling through the comments on Hell's Paradise Season 2, everyone's like, Peak is back. This is Peak again. Peak, 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 peak. People use that fucking word. It doesn't mean anything anymore. When I say peak, when I call Chunibyo peak, or when I call Sentence to Be a Hero peak, I mean it. I mean it with my whole chest. I don't mean, oh, this is just another thing that I like. I think Chunibyo is a great anime, and I think that you should check it out. I think you should give it the old watch through. I think you'll really enjoy it. I hope you will, at least. I know I enjoyed it. I had a great time with this anime, and I look forward to getting into Season 2. I have read some reviews revolving around Season 2 that do not excite me particularly. But I do want to watch Season 2 anyways and kind of, see what the haps is there. So that brings us to the end of this episode and this season of AnimeSub. I'm going to be taking some time off, and we'll be watching anime in the meantime. You should join my Discord, because I'm actually opening up requests for next season. So go to the thread in my Discord where you can plant your request and drop some animes you want to hear me talk about in there. I haven't put any real serious stipulations on it. I'll probably enact some weird ones. Don't recommend I watch One Piece, okay? I've seen like 5 episodes of it. I don't want to watch 1,000 more, okay? I'll watch the live action. But feel free to recommend whatever you want in the Discord, and who knows, maybe you'll see it pop up in Season 2 of AnimeSub. So thank you all so much for taking this journey with me. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast to this point. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in Season 2. Thank you all so much. I will see you next time, and until then, I don't know. Bye, everybody.